Do you ever drive over the speed limit? Have you ever got caught speeding? Chances are the answer is yes, but there are some among us who speed a lot, and there is a new effort here in New York to try to crack down on that repeated behavior. We know this is a big problem with around 41 million speeding tickets issued across the country each year, adding up to $6 billion in fines for drivers. Even with that threat, though, of getting a ticket, maybe even being charged, even with speed bumps and radar signs installed, this is still a problem, and it can no doubt be deadly. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration says 26% of all deadly crashes involve speeding. In 2019, that cost more than 9,000 people their lives, on top of 326,000 who were injured in speed-related crashes. Tonight, we're hearing from a state lawmaker who wants to target those repeat speeders. A state senator from New York City has introduced a bill that would place speed limiters into the cars of drivers who get too many tickets. The device would make sure the driver couldn't go more than 5 miles an hour above the posted speed limit. Who would be the focus for this, and how would such a device installed in your car even work? Well, joining us live tonight is State Senator Andrew Gounardes. He represents the 26th district that covers part of Brooklyn, New York, and is behind the proposed bill. We appreciate you taking some time for us, sir. And this idea really targets those repeat speeders. Who would qualify for something like that, who may need to put this in their car?
Well, good evening, and thanks really for your interest in talking about this really big problem. What we're talking about are the worst of the worst drivers on our streets. We estimate, based on New York City data alone, based on who we're targeting, this is the top worst 3% speeding offenders in our city. And you can basically extrapolate that to be statewide as well. The top 3-4% worst drivers. We're talking about people who get repeated speeding tickets. If you are in a jurisdiction that has speed cameras like New York City, we're saying 6 or more speeding camera tickets in 1 year, a 12-month period, or 11 points or more on your license over an 18-month period. Again, the most reckless drivers among us who are out there. The vast majority of people drive safely, they drive smartly, they follow the speed limit. If they go over the speed limit and they get caught, they change their behavior, they do the right thing. But there is a very small subset of drivers who are out there who repeatedly flout the law, run red lights, violate the speed limits, and they put people's lives at jeopardy because of that.
I have to be honest, I had never heard of this type of technology before, a speed limiter. I mean, it sounds like something like you have to blow into a machine if that's part of your punishment for drunk driving. How would the technology actually work? And it already exists out there, I assume?
It already does, and you're right. We're basing this off of what we've already done in the drunk driving context. If you get caught driving under the influence, you have to put an ignition lock and prove that you are not under the influence in order to operate your vehicle. Same concept here. This technology already exists. In fact, you might even see it on the highway already. I've driven on the highway. I've driven up the thruway coming from Brooklyn to Albany, and you'll see like delivery trucks saying vehicle cannot travel faster than posted speed limit. So the technology is out there, and in fact, the city of New York has done a pilot program on their municipal fleet. And the city of New York has thousands of vehicles. And in their pilot program, they found that when they adopted speed limiter technology, the number of hard stops decreased by 36%. Now, the only time you'd have to make a hard stop is if you are stopping suddenly because you're going too fast. So we know that this technology can work. And since this technology was implemented, 99% of city vehicles that are in this pilot program have been driven within the speed limit. So this is a proven solution based on a proven model that we've already been doing in the drunk driving context. We're saying, let's make the worst of the worst driving offenders out there. If they're not going to slow down on their own, we're going to force them to do it.
You already have a sponsor for this bill in the Assembly. You're obviously leading it in the Senate. What type of reaction have you got thus far? And of course, we all know a lot of things get introduced but don't necessarily get enough votes to pass. How optimistic are you?
Well, we are introducing this now with the expectation that we'll spend the next 5-6 months during the time when the legislature is out of session building support. We're hoping to build a statewide coalition for this measure. The response has been, I would say, pretty overwhelmingly positive from my constituents, from people across the city so far. You do hear from a couple of people who say, it's not fair to target drivers in this way. Why are you penalizing them? And my response to that is, we're not penalizing you. We're just holding you accountable. No one is taking your vehicle away. We're not giving you more fines. We're just saying we're going to, in fact, allow you to continue driving your vehicle. But driving is a privilege, and it's not a right. And if you are going to continue to drive in a manner that is dangerous and reckless and put people's lives at jeopardy, and you're not going to follow the speed limit time and time and time and time and time and time again, we're going to physically force you to slow down. You know, you cited some statistics earlier about when speeding is a factor in fatalities nationwide. Here in New York, it's actually higher. It's about 32% of crashes and fatalities in New York are linked to speeding. And the data shows that if you hit someone with your car going at 20 miles an hour, for example, they have an 80% chance of living. If you hit them with your car at 40 miles an hour, they have an 80% chance of dying. So we know that if we can force traffic to slow down, the most egregious violators out there, we can actually save people's lives.
State Senator Andrew Gounardes represents the 26th district covering part of Brooklyn and introduced this bill. Thanks for coming on and talking to us.
Thank you. Have a great night.
All right.